Good evening. I think everyone is tired right now. It's already 6:45, so I will make it quick. I think this session we have organized with the help of CSR Box only for the small and medium NGOs. So this is nothing great for the large NGOs. You would already know everything that I am going to talk about. So as part of the donor community, uh, we feel very disheartened when we meet small NGOs and they want to talk to us and they want to know how to apply for a grant. So I think there is some kind of misunderstanding. Usually people think कुछ तो setting करनी पड़ती होगी या कुछ तो ऊपर से connection चाहिए होगा. That's how you get a grant. But that's not true, at least not with big brands like us. So usually we follow a mixed route. We do 50% of our funding through RFPs, which is request for proposals. It is usually for a pre-approved strategy, like say for example, one RFP is live right now. It is on skilling for future. So we have three tracks in skilling. One is for IT and AI. So the previous panel was wonderfully sharing some information about AI. So all the job roles related to AI is one of the track in the skilling RFP. Second one is for green jobs, everything to do with solar, electric vehicle, and everything other in the renewable energy sector. And third one is from our sector, which is banking and financial services and insurance industry. So we have like a broad framework, and then we usually launch an RFP, which is live. So you can just go through our website or LinkedIn handles to understand what an RFP document looks like. So that constitutes roughly 50% of our budget, and our budget is like say 500 crores. So out of that, 250 every year we'll give through RFPs, which is very fair and transparent because we are also audited by the government. The remaining 50, just to avoid the lengthy process of documentation, RFPs, application of hundreds of NGOs, we also do some through direct routes because we have offices across the country. So this will be true for mostly all the corporates which are listed on the stock exchange. So they would have their own priorities, own geographies where they would want to work on some projects which are already going on from the last few years. So I think this is very important for the small NGOs. Whoever have already met me in the morning and they're asking RFP में तो कभी हमारा chance होता ही नहीं है, all the pradhans and buyers of the world will get it, but that's not true. Some of our partners are also in this room and you can interact with them and they will tell you how things work. So I think the first step is reading the RFP document. So it's usually a 30 to 40 page document, and usually what happens is nobody reads it directly from the main source, which is our website or social media handles. They usually get it from WhatsApp groups or forwarded by someone else, or usually that's like an older version, or sometimes we also add addendum or add some information on the website. So you should directly download it from the website or our social media handles, especially LinkedIn. So reading is very important. It lists not just the project theme, but various terms and conditions. Like the current RFP which is on mentions very strictly that you should have at least 1,000 people trained in say green jobs, or at least 2,500 people already trained and placed in BFSI sector. So if you have not reached that number, then you are not eligible for that particular track. For green jobs or AI, the number would be say 500. So if you have already skilled 500 and placed say 60%, 70% of them as per the terms, then only you are eligible. If you are not eligible, then there is no point in filling the RFP or even wasting your own time. Then second is we have certain geographies. So if you kind of match with the bare minimum criteria, then there are certain geographic locations where if your competitor of any or any other NGO is already working and you are not working, then of course we will give more weightage or more marks to that particular person. So you will have to see whether the location where you are comfortable working, or we have strictly mentioned that we'll work only in this location or we are open to other location. So that is very important. And then some of the key RFP elements includes the structure, what is the scope, what is the funding size, and what is the selection criteria. So we usually mention not just 3 years, which is the basic minimum requirement. Sometimes we write 5 years. So suppose last year we did an RFP on supporting incubators. So from all over the country, even I am Ahmedabad, I am Kolkata, everybody applied. But you would be surprised that they were not selected because they didn't read the RFP. So RFP was on, say, a particular theme. They will apply their normal program, copy paste it and send it, and then make some phone calls and think it will work. But it doesn't work because we are also audited. So unfortunately, even though we want to work with big NGOs and small NGOs and everyone, but if they have not filled it properly as per the RFP scope of work, then they are also rejected. So this is very important. Then breaking down the RFP. So after you have read it, then you have to create a checklist for your own organization. Usually what I have seen is I usually meet founders in such big forums, but they never fill the RFP. So somebody in the team will fill the RFP and the person will not update the founder what goof up he or she has made. So usually they will tell the funder, हमने तो apply कर दिया. Like I have one close friend, you can say, he usually meets in such events and he will tell me, मेरा तो कुछ हुआ नहीं है. So I will tell him, please go and check what your team has goofed up. So then he went and checked and he was also shocked because a very trustworthy employee of his didn't attach the balance sheets or forgot to attach the balance sheet or the link was not working, whatever happened, but it didn't reach us. So I can't do anything even if I meet him in every event. So we had to, unfortunately, he, as in the NGO, was disqualified. So there will be one round where we will check all the documents. Suppose if there are 17 to 18 documents you have to kind of upload, like your ATG, CSR1. Suppose by mistake you don't upload ATG, you have uploaded your PAN card in place of ATG due to a small clerical error. Still you will be disqualified because that proposal will be considered as incomplete proposal. So it is very important that you do your own checklist and once it is uploaded or before uploading, you personally check it up that your team has done a perfect job. And then there are deal breakers, which I mentioned in the previous slide, that sometimes we don't want to work in a particular area or sometimes we don't want a particular kind of a project requirement. Suppose in skilling, we want retention, that you should be tracking your retention. So suppose you are working on skilling and you are qualifying with the bare minimum criteria of 60%. But we have one more criteria where we write that you should track retention rate for 6 months. Suppose the batch 1 ends today, so we want you to track at least for 6 months for a batch 1, and the project period is for 3 years, so you will have to track them for 3 years. So if you don't bill it in your budget sheet and you apply, then that's your problem. If you get selected, then you will have to kind of do the project in that budget itself. And if you have not mentioned anywhere retention word or retention category in the proposal, then again you will be eligible. You will go to the next stage. You will come to the shortlisting criteria. You will have to present, and then this usually takes 2 to 3 months. And then at the time of presentation, if you have not done retention in the proposal or as a practice, then again you will be disqualified. And then you can complain that okay, nothing happens. But this is very important that either this year or next year, but you read it thoroughly and then you prepare and present the proposal in that manner. But if you are not doing it, then you can still start doing it because every year the RFPs will be there. So this is how the due diligence looks like. So I think everybody talks about proposal or concept notes, but other than proposal, we have all these documents or all these formats which are very important for any RFP. So usually a lot of our NGO partners who get to work with us, they also joke with us that, you know, after filling your proposal, now we can fill for EU or World Bank proposal also. You ask so many documents. But in a way, we also can't help it because we are audited and we are asked all these, you know, documents. If the auditor conducts an audit of a project and it includes, say, female beneficiaries, so they will ask us whether the organization whom you are granting crores of rupees has an HR policy, whether they are taking care of the posh, are they compliant with labor laws. So we are responsible for the NGO. So hence we ask all these policies. So once you have everything, then I think you can also apply for a multilateral grants also. So required documents usually are the proposal form. You need to have at least 2 donors who can give a good feedback in writing to us or any of the PSUs or large foundations you want to work with. Then all the common documents, memorandum of association or trust deed, tax exemption certificates, IT returns, audit reports. So audit reports usually we have seen for small NGOs, they have a CA certified balance sheet with no covering letter, or there is no mention of that which act, under which act or under which accounting principles they have audited the NGO, and they have certified that there is no kind of misuse of funds. So all these certain clauses, the audit report should be there. Otherwise, they just present a scanned copy with a stamp and sign of the CA. So for us, that's not a complete audit report. It has to have a covering letter. So sometimes that also leads to qualification uh, in the first round, but in the second round, when we have two NGOs, one would be, say, an established NGO, and one would be an NGO whose name we would have not heard. So, of course, to save our own jobs, we would go with the established NGO, just not to risk our own jobs. So, this is very important that even a financial document like an audit report, which is not your job, but the CA's job, you should know that how a big NGO, you can just go to any big NGO's website and download their report and see what is the quality, what are the disclosures. So this is very important. Other than that, some of the best practices, these are like the due diligence documents, but the best practices also includes finance policies, because when we give grants, usually our size is 2 to 3 CR. It includes sometimes capex expenditure. So what is the finance policy followed by the organization? If it's a very basic policy where you call for 3 quotations and select any vendor, so there you get basic marks. But if you have a very thorough finance policy where limits are kind of established, that up to 50,000 will call for 3 quotation, up to 5 lakh will call for at least 10 quotation, or will go to listed vendors, above 5 lakh or above say 15 lakh will go for tendering, because sometimes we give multi-year grants which runs into above 5 crores. So that finance policy is also important. Then what are the monitoring mechanisms? So suppose there is a program which includes thousands of beneficiaries. So we will not depend on MIS or Excel. Even though you have an MIS and Excel based monitoring, that will take you to a certain round. But if there is too much competition, then we'll go for someone who has a proper monitoring software, where the beneficiary data is kind of uploaded by the ground staff, which is like, these are some of the basic best practices, that the monitoring team uploads the data and then data is stored, and there is a history backup that nobody from the admin team or the accounting team can change the data. So there are such software which gives comfort to the donor, that okay, the NGO has a certain software from where we can get a very verified set of data. Then whether you are also awarded or recognized by some of the platforms or government bodies or local bodies. Suppose if you are a small NGO and you are working in a particular district, if the district collector has kind of given you a certain recognition, that also you can mention in the awards and recognition section, because for small and medium NGOs, they think they don't have a national award or they don't have a CSR box award. That means they should not write it. You should write even if it is kind of a recognition from a collector, because that helps us establish a credit for you. So how do you write a winning proposal? So of course this everybody must be aware of, but I think very important is the problem statement, because some of the NGOs we have seen is they want to write about everything they know, and we want like in 3 lines, because if I present to a committee, I hardly get 1 minute for one proposal. So I will have to read your 60 pages of proposal. My team will prepare a fancy 4 to 5 slide presentation. Then we will prepare a one pager for our bosses. Then our bosses will present to the board. So in one page, your entire proposal is our responsibility. So our job will be easier if you follow a certain format and write every information very appropriately and in a very crisp manner. No theory, no faltu ka jargons. Okay. Some of the things you learn today also you must not use. So problem statement is very important. Then after that we go to the solution, where we'll show you some of the screenshots, but unfortunately we can't disclose the names of the NGOs. Otherwise, if the problem is about employment and they talk about writing the entire country's data on employment, so we don't want that data. You can write in one line that okay, we have this many unemployed youth, और फिर वहाँ से पूरा track अलग ही जा रहा है. So we can't even summarize what your solution is. So solution should be very crisp. If it's a skilling program, if it's an education program. So I have one sample for education program, just to give you some taste of NGO. We have taken the theme of mental health, so it's like fair for everyone. Then comes the project timeline, because in CSR now the new amendments wanted the CSR sector to look at long-term projects, but unfortunately they have used the word unused funds. So all the corporates and at the board level, they are kind of apprehensive to do long-term projects, because I am also a foundation and I also raise money from different companies. So the companies are telling us, can you spend it by March? Or we will give you funding only till March, then you use your own money. So luckily we have our own money, so we do that. But the word unused funds is creating a lot of trouble for your solution. If your solution is too big or too time consuming, then the timeline will be too big. So the timeline should be either 1 year. For other organizations, in our case, we go up to 3 years. So if it's 3 years, then you will have to kind of stick to year on year goals. So there is a format also. I can share it separately. Usually we prefer quarterly timeline or quarterly intervals. So at least your activities should be completed on a quarter on quarter. There should be certain goals in the project, that in quarter one will reach say 15 beneficiaries, quarter two will reach 30. So these are just the outputs. Outcome will come as per the project design. So if your outcome comes in case of education at the end of the year, so then year one outcomes can be written separately. So budget and financials will be again linked to the timelines and the solution. If your solution is very simple, as in the solution can be as innovative as possible, but it's your job to write it in a simple manner, because someone else would be reading it and that person may or may not be an expert. In a most likely scenario, he may be less expert than you. So just make their life easy by making it a very simpler format. Then everything should be interlinked. So suppose if the problem statement talks about jobs, then solution should be about placement and retention. And if you are talking about placement and retention, then your timeline should be linked with, if your duration of training is 3 months, so don't commit that in the next 3 months we will place everyone. It can be for the next 6 months. We'll try to place 70% in 3 months, then the next 30%, if not placed, we'll try to place it somehow in the next quarter or third quarter or fourth quarter. And then you can bill it in the budget. For placement, there can be a separate budget. For skilling, there can be a separate budget. And that's how you can build your own organization. Otherwise, then you will again complain that we have only 5% admin cost. So we also fund for placement officer. We also fund for events. We also fund for everything. So if you apply for a good RFP, you can bill in the budget every single thing, right from events, right from shared cost of your management, everything. Then team and expertise. So we also have a section on who would be the team that would implement it. Usually the person who is presenting it is never related to the project. So they present something and then someone else is crying that that person presented and I am not aware. This happened with a very big NGO who just came to meet us last week. So they had pitched something like a 300 entrepreneur program, and those 300 entrepreneurs will go and help 30,000 farmers. So program is very fantastic. You will create 300 entrepreneurs, skill and help 30,000 farmers. And this is one of the biggest NGOs in our country. So my team, someone is working with them. They pitched in the RFP, proposal got approved, everything. Now they come to us after 6 months that the person who wrote the proposal as well as your team didn't specify the timeline correctly. Can we change it now? So for us, it's a big task to go back to our board and say, this is the biggest NGO, and they are saying that somehow we wrote quarter one, we'll complete the selection of 300 entrepreneurs and train them. However, they have one page, like a one slide PPT on the journey of the entrepreneur, which itself says 18 months. It's like their theory of change, जो उनकी वेबसाइट पे भी है, उनके PPT में भी है, but somehow they wrote quarter one में they will finish. So the donor will think, okay, they are doing their job well, so maybe they have a pipeline and they will finish it off in first quarter, and that's how every income calculation was based on quarter one. Now, if we allow them to complete it in say 3 quarters, our income criteria will change. Maybe the auditor will trouble us later that why you selected them because they gave a output of say X crores. Now that would reduce. They will complete the work, 300 entrepreneurs, 30,000 farmers, but the income of the farmers will change. So now that's a problem. So this is very important that the team who is filling, you should know that this will be the team that will also be implementing. And again, the project timeline, budget, solution, everything is interlinked. One mistake in any section, sometimes the admin team fills the due diligence section, the program team fills the other section, the M&E team fills the other section, especially in case of bigger NGOs. So there is some kind of a mismatch. Then comes the monitoring and evaluation. So if you have pitched for a project, which I just used an example of 300 entrepreneurs. So what MEL team can present to us? Sometimes people copy paste or people overcommit, but that data is not available. So another big NGO, even awarded by various foreign governments, their team pitched a project to us, and I used to hold them in very high regard. I use the word I used to, because when our MEL team asked them for data, where are the entrepreneurs? They said we don't maintain the data of their MSME registration. I had like a red eye. I'm like, अब मैं यहाँ से उनको कैसे पकड़ूं? Because I'm sitting in Mumbai, they are here. So if they were in front of me, I would have like done this. That how could you do this? They don't maintain the data of the entrepreneur. As in, if they are creating an MSME, so it's a basic, like we are all from a well-educated background, it's a basic common sense that you will keep the registration number or you will at least track. So they don't do that. Now our jobs are in trouble. So somehow we have to be very thorough with our own assessment. So that's why MEL team should also know what the fundraising team or partnership team is pitching or what the founder is talking. Usually founders have a thing, they talk very big things, but team, if we go and meet them in the office, they are always crying that वो founder ने बोला था हमको नहीं पता था. So usually we have to avoid that so that everything is on the same level. Then conclusion, that why your proposal is the best fit for the donor's need, because at least 80 people will apply for one RFP. Like we just closed the skilling RFP despite having such lengthy requirements, 80 people have applied. Now some of the people, we want them to apply, like smaller ones, especially in northeast states, in various smaller cities where there is no band baja barat. So we wanted them also to apply, so we have extended the deadline, so you can maybe share in your circle. So this is some of the examples which are often misunderstood. So when we talk about number of candidates in skilling or in education, that's the reach. We want to reach maximum number of people. But when we talk about engagement, that how many are actually benefited by our funding, that's like what exactly they are getting benefited by, or are you really touching them? That's the engagement. Usually reach is online or through mobilization from soft touch elements. So usually we want, in case of say mental health or in case of awareness related program or in case of health program, the reach will be 10x of actual engagement. Now in case of education programs or skilling programs, we want engagement to be high, where people are actually getting skilled. And impact would be very simple. If we give 3 crore rupees, how much money is our beneficiary earning? That's what we do in every skilling, every livelihood or every entrepreneurship program. That if we are spending 3 crore for 300 people, which is roughly 10,000 per beneficiary, is the beneficiary earning 20,000 per month? If it is lower than that, then we'll say go to someone else, because we don't want to spend 10,000 and in the end you are giving them a placement for 12,000, which anybody would get in a Burger King. So we don't entertain such proposals. And usually you should also try to move from low jobs to a higher segment. And even in case of say education or healthcare, we want that how many people are actually treated or how many people are actually saved. We have one partner here sitting on first bench. So we asked them that what is your per tree cost? They are doing a big project with us in tree plantation. So it's with the government of Maharashtra. So we'll have meeting with the government. We'll see what is their GR, what is the per tree cost, how we can reduce government's per tree cost also. That also we have gone to that extent and actually kind of collaborated with them and made sure that everything is done in a very cost effective manner. So somehow we were able to reduce the budget by few crores and do the same job within the same terms and conditions. Now this is a very simple project which for the sake of understanding of all the NGOs we have used. So reach would be number of villages, number of camps, number of patients seen monthly. But the engagement would be how many lab tests were conducted. That will be one of the parameter. We'll see that actually this many people are getting benefited by a healthcare service. Otherwise that would be just a low touch intervention. Then how many referrals are done to a higher healthcare facility. So whether in case of diabetes, in case of malaria, so for every program there are government guidelines. So in case of healthcare, they want to track malaria, they want to track and eradicate diabetes and TB. improve infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate. So all the government guidelines will be built in the proposal, and then we'll see the engagement. If somebody is saying we are reaching 10,000 people, so that's like a good number for the annual report. But actually in our review meetings, we would be asking how many patients were referred to the nearby hospital. So that would be hardly 30 patients. So if we are spending crores of rupees and we are giving a service to 30 patients for say TB, 30 for malaria, 10 for anything else. So that's like only 60, 70 people. So then we'll review with the NGO and review internally also how do we come up with another program, not mobile medical unit, but look at something else where we work directly by leveraging government grants also. An impact would be reduction in IMR. So I was part of one of the RFP presentation of health team internally. So I asked one very big NGO, what is the number one disease in your geography? Because they pitched for a mobile medical unit. So we work in traditional areas like mobile medical units to highly innovative areas like genome sequencing, then doing R&D in hydrogen, how to kind of identify alternate fuels. So we do, like, being a national bank, we have like a wide canvas. So that big NGO told me TB is the biggest kind of a disease in my area. So I asked him, how many patients have you treated? So they said, no, we refer to the government hospital. After that, the MEL fails. So then they were rejected because they only refer to the government hospital. We want the number back also, that how many were actually treated. So common mistakes. So usually we receive emails after 12 midnight, especially by very big NGOs. So that kind of disheartens us. And we are also in a shock that what happened, internet was not working or what. So all such emails we'll get the very next day, and phone calls from top people they know. But unfortunately in RFP we don't entertain anything. Then avoid giving vague responses. So there are certain sections which are repetitive in nature, like what is the problem statement. So if you know the problem statement, you can just put it. And what is the solution? Then there is one section where we ask how your solution is different. So sometimes the person who is filling the proposal is a very junior person. He might or she might be annoyed by her or his own boss. तो वो कुछ भी लिख देते. Our solution is innovative because we are so and we are working in this field for last 10 years. तो उधर उनके marks cut हो जाएंगे. And if someone else is saying that okay, we are leveraging the government infrastructure, we are putting one person in the government hospital, we are using AI and tech, 2-3 things, so that person will get better marks and they will get the grant. So sometimes as leaders of your organization, you have to see that the junior most person who is filling the proposal is well paid and very happy. And underestimating details. So the third thing that we want to highlight is small details matter the most. So sometimes we ask what is the governance mechanism in the program, usually where it involves giving a lot of money to the beneficiary, like say in case of agri inputs or in case of farm mechanization or livestock. So we want to ensure, like we try our best, whether we are successful or not, that only the NGOs know, because when we give crores of grants to an NGO, we don't want the NGO who is already the dada in their area to only distribute livestock or farm equipments or inputs to their known people or to a community of their choice or to a section of society who is in touch with them. If the last thing is there, which is not necessarily unfair, but we want to make it more kind of fair, so we prefer lottery system, that in the gram panchayat everybody should be called in a certain day, sabka naam aap dalo matke mein, and then you pick the name and that person should get the one livestock or one input from us. It should not be like she's sitting in front, so it's easy, so I will just give it to her, then this way. Then the other people who are at the back will be left out. So we want to make sure that we as a funder make the NGO try for adopting best fair and transparent practices. So when we talk about governance mechanism in the project, we want to see NGOs using the words like we'll form a committee, or we will have representation from both the genders, we'll try to select one person from each family, or we will select people who are at the most, you can say, bottom of the pyramid in the village, or people who are landless, they will get the livestock first. So something like that, thoda sa uske andar thought dalna padega. Otherwise, if it's like we'll distribute in 500 needy beneficiaries, फिर हो सकता है किसी और को grant मिले. And neglecting Q&A period. So usually people who know me, they will just call me RFP aaya, and then I have to regret that I can't, talk on phone related to the RFP, because there is a set process that there is an email ID and there is a window related to the RFP. You can write an email, and for that, why we usually do that, so that my personal opinions doesn't come in the way of you getting a project. So we are trying to help you. So you should also help us by not calling. So there is an email ID mentioned. Usually there is a email ID mentioned on every donor's website. You should follow the right process. Of course, you can call your contact and seek guidance in a very polite manner that I have sent the email. Can you request your concerned team to get back to us, or is there anything else that I need to do or should know of? If you ask something on phone, like somebody is calling me right now, तो मैं बाहर जाके बोलूँगा हाँ हाँ कर दो देख लेंगे, then his proposal is gone, because I may not be able to actually see through it, right? So neglecting the Q&A period. So usually whatever you are asking, there will be a response coming from our team in a very structured format. And then we have to also kind of record it in our own records, what were the responses. Based on that, we design the next RFP. So we kind of put that information in the next RFP by default. So this time we also kind of put one document which is like guidelines to filling an RFP. So this entire PPT is in the form of a document along with the RFP. So someone in the remotest corner of the country can just download it, because some people are also shy in calling, right? कि क्या पता क्या बोलेंगे. They can just read it and then apply. Everything is like explained in the RFP guideline document itself, which is a separate document. And then there is a window. So if you miss the window, then you can call someone you know who is already applying, or you can check the responses which are already uploaded on the website, and most likely every information you want would be already part of the FAQs or somebody who has already asked that question. So tips for writing successful proposal. It's usually focuses on this four things. One is the donor's needs should also be taken care of. So if you are working in Ranchi and we want to work in Dhanbad, so you should know that you have to apply for Dhanbad. It's just a little far from Ranchi, but if you apply for Dhanbad, your chances are high. You can ask in the Q&A section, can I apply for Ranchi? So as an organization, we may not write that please don't apply for Dhanbad. We'll say, okay, go ahead by applying in Ranchi. And if someone else who is competing with you has applied for Dhanbad, then you will not stand a chance. So you should forget your own mission and vision. You should focus on the theme and the RFP for say few days and you will get through it. Then proofread and edit. So as I mentioned, the person who is filling the form is usually a junior person. So sometimes they can also make mistakes. They are all humans. And very importantly, continuing from the previous panel, there is a lot of AI and chat GPT used in proposal filling. So please don't do that and don't encourage. And don't keep very stringent timelines on your staff, because they end up using chat GPT. So we kind of read 100 plus proposal every month. So we can just see the proposal and check on chat GPT. It is coming from chat GPT directly. So this is in use like at a very, very high intensity. Showcase experience. So wherever there are sections related to your expertise and track record, don't end up wasting the space by writing a lot of stories. Just put your experience in 3 bullet points, 4 bullet points, like skilled so many people, or working in so many schools, or working with so many state governments, and our impact in terms of increase in learning level is this much, decrease in dropouts is this much. In very short, usually people write about the entire journey of the organization in the experience section, which often leads to us not being able to comprehend what they are trying to convey. So showcase experience, but only relevant expertise and past successes to build credibility, not to impress us. We only want to know whether you know the job or not. So if someone approaches me that we want to work in the education area and we have this fantastic model, so we all have very limited time, right? So I will only ask him whether this model has been proven somewhere or how long you have been implementing this. If it's a very new model, then there is a separate way to apply. That's not the RFP way. Then we can directly kind of approach funders and have a meeting, explain them, give them presentation and all that. That is a little longer route, but RFP is a shorter route and it usually works because at least 10 to 20 people get a grant in one window. So here we just want to know whether you know what you are talking about. Very simple. We are not kind of judging you, or we are not going to give you a gold medal that you know the best. We just want to know you that at least 60% marks you get in your job. That's it. After that, once the credibility is built, then comes your new proposal where we will jointly work and your pass percentage would be say 80. And then anything else. So we are not kind of uh, denying that you should not work on innovation. So innovation is also a section. You can kind of cover it separately in the proposal or in the implementation plan or in the solution as other innovation mechanism or other innovation processes that we have. So anything else other than the main theme can be covered separately as a separate subhead. So there you can mention that instead of doing a matka system, we use a random formula on Excel. We put down everyone's name in the Excel and use a random sample. So that also, but that can be covered separately. So this was supposed to be a more interactive session. So I would request each one of you to share your experiences and then ask questions. So whether you have applied for an RFP, what are some of the apprehensions you face, or what are some of the thoughts that you get in your head when you look at an RFP. So then we'll be able to address some of those questions and some of those thoughts. Monish, why don't you go first and tell the audience there is no setting in RFP?
Tell me, what do you want me to say?
Share your experience.
Uh, so I would say, the RFP contains each and everything. It's really up to us and the teams to really go through it thoroughly, understand each and every bit of it. And if you really understand each and every bit of it, it really answers each and every question of ours. This is all up to us to really read the RFP thoroughly. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
You mentioned that around 50% of the grants will ask for proposal from the different ideas. Now, I can have a various different ideas, and that may cost anything. So when you decide, suppose as an organization I apply, how would you judge whether, is there any limit to, in relation to my annual turnover or something
Yeah.
that can help us?
So we give certain criterias also. So like till last year, we were kind of evaluating NGOs who have a cumulative turnover of 5 CR over the last 3 years, which means roughly 1.5 a year, because our average grant size is about 2 crore. And in RFP, we give a budget limit. You can apply for 50 lakhs to 5 crores. So within that, you will have to fit your project budget. And then this year we started for small NGOs, deviation from our requirement. If you are applying for a grant up to 1 crore, anything above 1 crore will lead to the same turnover requirement. If you are applying for a project grant of 1 crore, your turnover should be 2 crore for 3 years, which means 60 lakhs. Below that, you will not have any documents, only क्या HR policy बनाओगे, right? So this is the basic turnover requirement. उधर है.
Thank you very much for the session. I have one doubt or one question. Now you said one of the requirements for a winning proposal is an innovative solution. But what if the solution is not innovative, but it is a very impactful solution? Like say, for example, you're doing a water filtration system for a rural community. Now the thing is, water filtration might not be very novel, but it will reduce the fluoride content in the water to a very great extent, and the health challenges because of that will greatly reduce. So would such interventions also be something that would lead to a winning proposal? That is my question.
Yeah, so innovation carries a certain marks, not like it will have a huge impact, but if you are kind of tying with a competitor, your innovation marks will get you the proposal.
But
But
what if
cost will also increase, right?
Yeah, but what if it is more impactful? It might not be an innovative solution,
Yeah.
but it is more impactful. So would this proposal also
Yes,
be?
I think, see, as long as impact is there, if I hold my ear like this or like this, I don't care, but the result should be there. So if you are impactful, then I think without AI, without any innovation, if you are doing the job well, you will get the first preference.
Thank you.
Because innovation, we believe, is supposed to create more impact. So if there is no innovation but more impact, then of course we'll do it without innovation, right? Some of the traditional methods are better than new methods.
Yeah, hi, Aman. Uh, I just want to know that, okay, there are two aspects of that. One is the technical, evaluation. Another is the financial evaluation.
Yes.
Now that comes to, once anyone is going for the filling of the RFPs, there may be other same or other organization, they are going to fit in the same criteria. Now the marking system that comes to, as per me, if I'm filling all the aspects, and I presume that, okay, I'm qualifying, and as per the guidelines I have filled up, I am going to gain this much of marks. So where the differentiation is going to happen on the basis of evaluation by your committee, that how the marks should be given on the financial aspect is
So
the major concern?
especially in CSR proposal, financial aspect is not carrying much weightage, because if you have filled everything properly, like your solution, your implementation plan, your output, so everything will be linked to the budget. So suppose you are kind of training 300 entrepreneurs, I will take that example. So how many manpower, what is the budget for manpower? How many people are you billing in the budget? So financial will not carry much weightage. Only the technical part is kind of seen. You are shortlisted, then you have to present. So suppose your budget is, say for example, skilling is a sector where we can compare. Average per person cost will be 15,000. But if you are doing skilling in AI, so we'll see whether you are taking someone who is very, you can say 10, 15-year work ex kind of a person to skill the beneficiaries. And then there the cost will not be 15,000, cost will be 30,000, right? So budget comes later, but first if you are shortlisted, then the budget discussion can also lead to some kind of changes in the budget. So we don't disqualify on the budget. Budget can be reduced, but first if everything goes well in the shortlisting stage and the presentation stage, so then we usually
So it means it won't be like that in tender happens that L1 kind of category
no,
and
no,
that
no,
is going to be.
L1 नहीं
So
होता
there
है.
should be the, means they will get the proper presentation to be happen for the financial aspect also to define
So
in that.
in this, at least 10 NGOs are selected. In some cases, even more. So like the skilling RFP, the deadline was extended for 1 week last night. Till last night, like till last evening, before I got onto the flight at 8 p.m., only 21 had applied. So usually they will all apply by 12 midnight. Ideally, you should apply at least one day before, right? So we can check and then tell you, please upload audit report, because it's not like a government tender, or it's not like a big contract like SpaceX where we don't want your rocket to fly, right? So we'll call you, bhai, upload the annual report, right? So रात की 12 बजे we got 84 proposals, and now we have extended the deadline, so we might get even more. So in that, at least 20 people will get selected. So it's not L1, it's like first eligible. So how things work is, out of 84, first my team will check who has filled on time. जो time पे नहीं आया है, those people are rejected by default. Now out of 84, at least 4 will be like that. After 12 midnight, they might be hating their boss, so they will upload at midnight के बाद. So they are rejected by default. Now out of 80, we'll see who has all the documents, like ATG, then minimum 3 years of track record, if RFP says something about geography, so like that. So one is the due diligence qualification. So why we do that is for our own benefit, so we know who are the NGOs who have all the documents. So out of 80, say 60 will have all the documents. So we'll make a list to for our own record, 60 eligible NGOs applied, because that is what we want to report. Out of that 60, we'll see who qualifies with the terms and conditions of the RFP, like having further criteria, 5 years of skilling expertise, NSDC registration, XYZ, then something around number of people skilled and placed. So then 60 में से roughly 50-40 हो जाएगा. So 40 will be called for presentation. That would take us at least 10 days to complete the presentation. Now each one will be given a query that, okay, do you have a third party report? On which page does it talk about retention? If you have mentioned retention, so then you will say this is our historic record, then we'll ask you please share that data. So that becomes an ATR. So in the minutes of our meeting, it will be your NGO name, and then to share retention data verified by XYZ, audited. Then you will share it, then my team will write page number of the report. Page 54 says retention data was 64, report is by Satwa और एक्स मतलब थोड़ा सा नाम जानना होना चाहिए कि वेबसाइट हो उस वेंडर का, वरना खुद का नाम लिख के तो नहीं डाल सकते. So then you will go to the next stage. So out of 40, if you are lucky enough, then you will be in say top 25. Top 25 को grant मिलेगा. So it's not only the one who has the lowest per beneficiary rate, but अगर आपका beneficiary rate बहुत high है, we can't rationalize, तो
should be
फिर reject हो
justifiable
जाएगी.
in any case. in that way.
Justifiable है तो चलेगा.
Right. Thank you, Aman.
Thank you. Give some few mics.
I'd like to know how long does the whole process take?
So RFP is open for 1 month.
Huh.
Then at least 1 month goes in shortlisting, because 84 proposals will read thoroughly, because किसी का भी नहीं होता है, so then they come after our lives. So then in the month 2 you will hear about the presentation. After presentation it takes another 1 month. So 3 to 4 months में it
Yeah.
closes. But the grant for us is huge, because for you it will be say up to 5 crore. For us it will be 50 crore plus. So it goes in one shot.
Okay, and when does the last date generally for your RFPs? Deadlines?
RFPs go year round, because right now one is live, two
Ah.
were live last month, one was
Okay.
on waste management,
Okay.
one was on afforestation, mangrove conservation.
Okay, so
So
it's
like
goes
that
through
we
the year.
launch every month new RFPs.
I see.
Something might come up around coaching centers in the next month, something will come for incubators, startups.
I
So
see.
every month we launch, because we want to focus on one RFP, and then otherwise our inbox will be flooded with multiple NGOs.
So do you support infrastructure projects?
We support infrastructure projects, but more of a, so suppose you have an NGO, you want to construct a school, so that is not of any use to us as a brand, right? If it's registered with the government and you are collaborating with the government, setting up something which is first of its kind, so there we can contribute, and we'll also be able to do something. Otherwise we'll finish our money in like 10 projects, right?
Thank you. Thank you for a very insightful session. We learned really very good tips. I have a general, I mean request.
Yes.
I mean from this forum, I believe this can go to the corporates. We are an implementing agency, and there are many, I believe many colleagues over here, they will bear me out. I think corporates need to have heart. If we have to bring innovation in social projects, then corporates have got to have a heart to face failures. Because suppose you are funding a science project and it doesn't work. You are funding say 1 crore rupees for a project and it doesn't work. You don't blame the experimenter, you don't blame the implementer for that. But unfortunately, that's not the case in the social sector. We are always pressured for the numbers. This much number, what is the impact?
Sir,
So we
social
are
sector, I
we
think so
are-
social sector has the biggest heart. The actual heartless people are on the other side. But still here there are some laws which wants the donor to kind of take reporting and report. Now it has gone at the ministry level, where the donors have to write your project code also. If you are doing one project, earlier it was more like passion, that I will give you 10 lakh rupees and you will go and create a new variety of seed which will make entire Delhi air pollution free, right? So I will give you a grant. Now I have to write that project in my annual report. I have to write that project in the MCA website. Then after a year, if the project is above 1 crore, I have to do an impact assessment. And everywhere, if it is no, 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 then the auditor will come after the donor. So sometimes you have to understand, like what I mentioned, sometimes you will have to also understand the project actually creates an impact. So while we can follow our passion from philanthropic money or our own money, but from CSR at least it has become very professional. More like you can say now it has become corporatized. So partly because a lot of NGOs are just not doing great work, but a lot of them are doing great work. So it will be benefiting for those NGOs who are doing great work, because now whoever is making stories, they will not get the grant, right? So if your project is good, you are doing an experiment, actually if you have done all the activities and result is not there, then I don't think any corporate or donor will have a problem. They might be very happy if you have completed all the activities, that okay, you did X number of research, you did X number of articles, you did X number of training for your students, and you will be achieving something. But these days, nobody wants to hear a failure story. because it goes straight in the annual report. That person might lose the
That's
job.
my point. That's precisely my point, that we are not ready to listen to failures. We don't have that courage to accept failures in social sector. I believe that I'm not talking about that we will not do activities and will expect results. Even after diligence and due monitoring, we have reasons to believe that the person has done everything that was to be done. But it is possible. It is sometimes possible that you don't get the numbers that you have committed in the proposal. This is my perception, and I believe that there are people to agree with it, and in many cases, it doesn't happen. So
No, I
my
agree with
request
you
is
also.
I am not here to argue, but this is a fact. This
No,
is
no, I
a
am
problem.
saying I agree with you that sometimes this happens, but if the number is not zero, then I don't think some of the corporates,
No,
at least the
problems do
reputed
happen.
ones,
Problems happen. It comes up to even blacklisting that you have not done. Oh, we didn't get that. People are pressurized then to manipulate reports even.
Achha.
So this is not directly concerned with you, but this is generally, I mean, this is an appeal to the corporate sector that if you want innovation, then be ready to listen to failure stories. Otherwise, innovation will not be possible.
Thank you, thank you. So we'll take the questions offline. I think now they have to shut down.